Hi, I'm Leon Lovelace, and this is Unstoppable Force. I got a news story for you guys, and it's from the Washington Post, and it's about the Trump administration gonna bring up tax reform. Okay. President Trump and congressional Republicans plan to follow their health care debacle with a massive tax reform package. It's far from clear how they will pay for it. I'm very surprised they used that form or he used that phrase of words because they always talk about how they're going to pay for it when they talked about Bernie Sanders and how he was going to provide free college education for everybody and how he's going to do a Medicare for All program and other progressive programs. But they never said that about waging war or cutting taxes or any other the conservative or regressive reforms or policy proposals that conservatives and Hillary Clinton talked about. They only phrase it that way towards Bernie Sanders. So it's nice to see him say this or type this out. Okay, Trump has previously promised his tax changes would not add to our debt and deficit. Was counting on $800 billion taken from Obamacare to pay for tax reductions. So of course, just spend less money in healthcare and just give it to wealthy people. So that's a tax cut, a big ass tax cut right there. That would have been just atrocious. Perhaps this is why he recently said he's going to try to return to finish repealing the Affordable Care Act before taking on tax reform. It's also not clear why tax reform is so high on the agenda. Voters are more eager for the president to deliver on his promised infrastructure package than to reduce the corporate tax rate. But the donor class must be heeded, and nothing heals Republican risks like a good tax cut. So tax reform is on deck. So it's nice that this writer actually talks about how they're just serving their donors. That's why they're talking about tax cuts right now, or tax reform. Because, of course, when the Republicans say they want tax reform, it's always talking about tax cuts. They never talk about raising taxes, especially on the wealthy people who really need to pay more in taxes. What exactly will be in Trump's tax plan is a mystery. During the campaign, Trump promised 3 headline ideas: tax cuts for individual taxpayers, which would largely benefit the wealthiest; tax cuts for corporations to reduce rates to 15%; a series of tax cuts and changes to discourage job losses overseas. So, cutting taxes so companies don't move jobs overseas is already proven to not work because Trump talked about this with, I forget the name of the company. It was in Indiana, and it was like right around after he won the election, and he went to I think it's Carrier, and he supposedly negotiated a deal where they would keep some of the jobs here. Of course, they still shipped some out, and he still gave them tax cuts. So he already proved that tax cuts is not going to save all the jobs. If anything, he needs to raise taxes on these corporations for shipping jobs out that we need here. So, if you're conservative, this is not the first time companies have gotten tax cuts and shipped jobs out overseas. So the shit just doesn't work. Carrier is just one example of a company getting a tax cut and still shipping jobs out. It's getting more money and then still screwing your ass over. There's a lot more examples. I just haven't found them yet. But there's a lot of examples of this going on. And examples of this that's already happened for decades. Now the writer, he talks about how the Democrats shouldn't talk about or shouldn't emphasize that much that the GOP tax plans are going to favor the rich overwhelmingly over the middle class and working class and poor people, and they should just attack them on jobs. And no, he's incorrect on that. I think he's incorrect on that part. Because one, he should talk about how the Democrats should talk about President Trump needs to actually help the working class people like he promised. He's going to make America great again. It doesn't make America great when you're only helping 1%, and especially the 0.1% of Americans at the detriment of everybody else. So they need to attack him on that. They need to say, you need to raise the taxes on the wealthiest 1% and on corporations. And then you give a small cut to the middle class, working, and poorer class people. But the wealthy people and the corporations need to pay need to get big tax hikes. So they really need to attack them on that. And they should attack them on jobs and say, hey, you need to actually make a jobs program, because that's really what's going to help create some more some more income inequality in this country. So what jobs program are you going to implement right now? Or what jobs program are you going to present to the people and to Congress in the next few days? Because it goes on a little bit more about how they should attack more about cutting taxes is supposed to create jobs and try to force the companies or the corporations to produce jobs with these tax cuts. But companies don't do that. So, plus I think it's kind of hard to, force a company to say, hey, I'm going to cut your taxes by, 1%. Now, you need to hire an employee or a few employees, or you need to increase their wages. But of course, what they really should do is just say, you know what, we're going to increase the minimum wage so it's a living wage to try to reduce the poverty in this nation. You need to do that because you need to work for all the people of the United States, not just the wealthiest 1% or the wealthiest 0.1%, like you and your Republican buddies have been doing for pretty much forever. Then it says, second, although the job of the opposition party is generally to oppose, tax reform is one area where the opposition cannot beat something with nothing. Democrats need to have an alternative proposal to put up against the GOP plan. For now, Democrats need a straightforward, middle-class tax cut plan like those Maggie Hassan and Catherine Cortez Masto proposed during last year's campaign. A tax cut of $1,000 per family, paid for by closing loopholes that benefit the wealthy and big corporations. Some Democrats resist such broad middle-class tax cuts, worried about the impact on government revenue. They think they feel like giveaways. So that just sounds like they're fucking Republicans right there. It's that they don't want to cut taxes on the majority of people, just the working people of the United States. And they don't want to help them. They want to help the wealthy people. Because if you don't want to cut taxes on the middle class, you're going to really be harping on you need to cut taxes on the poor people. So, because I don't really hear that or read a lot about how some Democrats are talking about cutting taxes on the middle class. I don't know. We need to cut taxes on the poor people because they're making a lot less money and suffering a lot more with a lot harder circumstances than the middle class. Don't really hear that or read that a lot. And then it's just another example of how, but why is it okay to say, oh, we don't really want to give money to the middle class people, but giving it to the wealthy corporations and the wealthiest people, that's fine. Those supposedly aren't giveaways. But giving it to regular middle class people, oh my gosh. How could we do such a thing? It's such a giveaway. We can't give shit away. Oh, so fuck off, man. Give money to the wealthy. Get that shit out of here. But Democrats cannot stand for the notion that middle class families are pinched and they feel their pain if they aren't prepared to come forward with a concrete way to address that. An extra $1,000 in each family's pocket is specific and on target. Finally, if Republicans need Democratic votes to get a plan passed, Democrats should unify behind one simple demand, requiring the president release all of his tax returns before the first corporate tax cut takes effect. The recently disclosed Trump tax return for 2005 revealed that virtually all the taxes he paid resulted from the alternative minimum tax, a provision that his tax plan would eliminate. So, of course, he needs to make sure his taxes are lowered, especially when he gets out of office, because God forbid he pay a little bit more in taxes. That return is typical. The Trump tax plan is an 86% tax cut for Trump. Voters have a right to know exactly what he's getting out of all of this, and Democrats should insist on the release of Trump's tax returns as a condition of any tax reform package. So since the Republicans blew up the Senate rules because they don't really give a fuck about the integrity and some of the historic rules and established procedures of the Senate, they only need to get 51% of the vote, or 51 votes to pass anything. So I don't think Democratic senators can block any shitty tax reform plan that the Republicans make up. Plus, I think that if any Democrats vote for any tax cuts, it's just foolish politically, because you're voting just to crush the people of the United States even more. So there's no advantage to do that at all. All right, so I love you guys, and thanks for watching.